Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Mordechai. Today's shir is being sponsored by Mordechai Aschkenasy, zchus Shidduchim for Rivka Yehudit bas Yafa Chaya and Sheina Rachel bas Rivka. You should find the shidduch bekorev. I want to say Yeshua Yossi Saunders from Manchester, he has a famous newspaper there, the Jewish Weekly, that goes out to 60,000 people. So he put in a nice ad. Yossi in the Jewish Weekly wish a huge mazel tov to Eli in the America's Daf Yomi, Rabbi Shemesh, his Rebbe Feigi, the mishpacha, and engagement of his son Aaron to Malka Kapelovich. That's her name. Okay, I got it right this time because it's in writing. Rabbi Isai, I love this picture. Great picture. It's from Yosef Mevorach. He says he went to the cave of Rabbi Yisrael Sklover. I think that's how you pronounce it, in Tveria. He's the Tikkun Chadatin. It's a gewaldige picture. Look at this. Here's a nice Ben Torah with his kids at the Tikkun Chadatin's cave. We're learning the Tikkun Chadatin. That's the one opportunity we get to learn from a sefer exclusively. And here is a picture from Yitzi Hershkowitz. And he says, I cannot believe this. Last time I saw my chavrusa from Chaim Berlin, I learned the Chaim Berlin for 2 years. Gewaldige guy. Balmida is a big Balkish and a great learner. It's like Meir Oxenberg. Here's Yitzi Hershkowitz, and here's my chavrusa. I would never in a million years recognize him. This is Mamish Chasimas Zakan. The last time I saw him, he was clean shaven. It's unbelievable. So it's great to see him. Yishkoyach for sending that in. Great email here. This is from, what's his Hebrew name? I forgot his name. Netzach. Okay, maybe we'll get to it. Oh, Tzemach Levi. My name is Tzemach Levi, Samuels, and I live in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. I've been learning, it's a long one, so I skip around here a little bit. I've been learning Daf Yomi with you since the beginning of Masechta Shabbos, and enjoy it very much. Look forward to every shir. Because the time zone, okay, I can't participate on Zoom. I go to Torah anytime, or YouTube. I was delighted to have stumbled on the live shir Zoom Erev Pesach. I had an opportunity to exchange greetings. I'm facing a dilemma. You hear this dilemma, Rabbi Isai, what would you say? I appreciate your opinion in my proposed course of action. A bit of my background, I grew up in Oil City, a small town in western Pennsylvania near the site of the first oil well. Bekitzer is a small Jewish town, Hebrew school, no school. Unfortunately, the day school, oil still disappeared. I retired from the corporate world in 2013 and finally was able to devote more time to Jewish learning. I joined a local beis medrash for Seder Beis Medrash in Philadelphia, where I'm able to enjoy shiurim, mishnah brura, mishnayos, Gemara, range of topics. Kitzer, I began learning Gemara with Chavrusa over Skype and a rabbi art scroll. And Bekitzer, he completed a large portion of Shas, but not in Daf Yomi order, which brings me to my dilemma. I am now 73 years old and Baruch Hashem in relatively good health. If I stay the official Daf Yomi schedule, I'll finish Shas with the Olam, the conclusion of Menachos, on May 1st, 2026. However, I've already completed many of the Mesechtas which the Olam will be learning between now and then. To be specific, Bekitzer goes through the whole thing. So he wants to know, maybe when we get to a certain Mesechta, he should jump and do Nedarim, while we do Sukkah and Beitza, and then I'll do Menachos, Bekitzer, when we do Tainis Megillah, that's the Shaila. So first of all, it's been one of my goals to finish Shas. I'm excited to be able to see the way to do it in 1.5 years. Unfortunately, for that to happen, I'll have to leave Yashir. And the joy I get from it, for 2 extended periods of time, decisions, I look forward to meeting him at Shemesh Day, Koltov. So, number one, I would say, you're 73 years old. It's time to pick it up a little bit, no? What's another 45 minutes of learning the daf? Learn the daf and learn the other Masechta. That's what I would say. Why can't you do another 45 minutes and you can put it on 1.5 speed, 30 minutes? There's no time now for Parnas and these things. Now it's time to start catching up and learning Torah. But if you're going to tell me you don't have another minute in the day, just not going to work, then I would say, since you gave me such a whole schedule over here and you're so organized, and you know what you're doing, then maybe you should jump ahead. You should change. But if you see that you're not doing a daf a day, then you come back to the shir. What do you say? But my eights is do both. Why not? Chaper is kedai. Okay, today Rabbi Yisrael Daf Zayin. Zayin, we're holding 3 lines down. Mishnigna Za'aray, we're doing easier sugis now in Shkalim. It's no longer that hard Shkalim Tiklan Chadatin. Yeah. Oh, Hayoim. Hayoim Tisha Yomim Sheheim Shavua Echad Ushne Yomim BaOmer. Thank you. By the way, there's only 7 days left to Shkalim. And big siyum to be announced. Nah, I'll probably be on a plane somewhere. And then we're starting Yuma. Now, I don't recommend starting Yuma. I recommend jumping right now in Shkalim. But if you know anybody that likes only starts from beginning of Masechtas, so recommend it. Mishenigna Za'aron. When they were goynes, when Yeshio was goynes the Aron, they buried it forever. Nignaz imoitz and senes haman. There were other things that were in the Kodesh HaKadoshim that were buried together with the Aron, such as the jar of the man. That later on, Yirmiyah, when he gave Musa to Klal Yisrael, and he said, "Why are you working? You should be learning Torah." So what does everybody say? What's the first excuse? And the excuse remains until this very day. What do you have to do? Parnasa. What about Torah? So he told them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has ways of being in fairness. You look, here's the man. He took out the man and showed them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "Be goynes, put this man in the Kodesh HaKadoshim for when you'll need it." But later on, it was nignaz forever. Utzluchas shemen hamishcha, as we're going to describe soon, this is the oil they anoint, specifically the Kohen Gadol, and also the kings. Umakloi shel Aaron, ufarochav ushkedov, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to show, when he made a nace, who's in charge, that Aaron is in charge, he told all the heads to bring their sticks, and Vayotzis tzitz, the pasuk where they put the stick in, the makel, and Aaron's grew shkedim. So they were going as the stick was there, the makel was there to show the nace, and that the kohanim come from Aaron, the argaz sheshivu plishtim osham lelikei Yisrael. So later on, the plishtim sent the box with different things in there, the hemorrhoids, etc., to show the gold. So that box was buried. Mignazoi, Yoshio Gnazoi. Yoshio was a tzaddik, he was going as it. Kizbin Shiro Shikosu. Yodelach Hashem Oischa Vesmalkucha Shetokim Alecha. El Goya Shelo Yidata Ata Vayisecha. Omar Gnazoi. He said, eventually, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take everything. Hado D'chsiv. Vayomer Lelevim Avinim L'chol Yisrael Gdoshim L'Shem Tnu Zor NaKodesh Babayis HaShabona Shloimoi. Bekitzer, he saw that there's going to be a time that things are going to go bad. So instead of the Aron going into the hands of the enemy, he buried it. Now, it says in the pasuk here that Shlomo HaMelech created a hiding place for the Aron, just in case it needs to go into hiding. So in the Beis Hamikdash, because it already says that Shlomo HaMelech built the Beis Hamikdash. So what is it? What's this pasuk repeating? The pasuk is saying that he built something special, a hiding place. Don't worry about it. You're not going to have to carry it on your shoulders. It's going to go into hiding and it's going to stay there forever. And we're going to see, as we mentioned in the Mishnah, that according to one man, the Omer was hidden in the Lishkas Ha'etzim, where they store the wood. And we're going to see this machlokes in it. Omer lahem im goylu imachim lebavel enat machzir moisoi odem koimoi. If chas v'shalom the Aron ever goes with you to Bavel, it'll never come back. El ate ivdus Hashem Elokeichem es amo Yisrael. Okay, there's a beautiful pshat here in the Kafta V'Ferach Ayin Sham. Pitum b'shemen hamishcha v'ato kach l'cha v'kidach hamesh meyois. So the Torah enumerates, take 250 cinnamon and different things. Total, shem elev v'chamesh meis manim. It's 1,500 portions. So approximately, let's say, call it 50 pounds. Shemen zayis hin shteimasor lug. And then you take the oil, trying to make oil that smells really good. It's 12 lug, a gallon or two. Shavoi sholkim is haikarin, that you soak the roots of all these things that you brought, the 1,500 manim. It's not a good idea to soak it in oil because there's not enough oil, and the oil is going to go directly into the root, and you won't have any oil left over to use to anoint the kohen, to anoint the king. You have to literally smear oil. And as we're going to see, it lasted for a very, very long time. And they did a lot of smearing with it. So if you're going to soak it into the roots, if the roots are going to soak it up, there won't be anything left from those 2 gallons of oil. So what do you do? First, you take the root, you soak it in water. Now, it has no room to soak anything else in. Now, you take the oil and put it on top of the root. And once the oil smelled good from all these different perfumes, all these plants, now you take the oil off. That's what the perfume makers do. If you look at the pasuk, find it here. It says in the pasuk, so the pasuk actually says that it's done like a professional perfume maker. Okay, so that's basically what the Gemara is trying to say here, that it was done in a professional way. This oil was a simple nace from beginning to end. It started out with 12 lug. A hin is 12 lug. If you're going to soak the roots, you won't have enough. You have the fire, and the wood absorbs, and the pot absorbs. And nevertheless, there's so much left. The entire Mishkan we call Kalov, and all the vessels, Shulchan, the entire Shulchan we call Kalov, Amenor we call Kalov. Talking about Shivsim Yemiluim, Yana the Yaima. So Aaron HaKohen was Nimshach. All the Kohanim Gedolim and all the kings. It was one batch, lasted for all that time. Melech batchilaton meshicha, melech b'melech einton meshicha. So the original king gets anointed. Everyone after him, if it's a son or a son of a son, no meshicha. My taima kum mishocheu ki zehu. That's it. Zehu, like in Hebrew, they say zehu. Zehu. That's it. This guy, and that's it. Zeton meshicha ben benoiton meshicha. You don't anoint the son. Avakoin gadol ben koin gadol afilu adasor dairais forever. If there's a son of a koin gadol, the son of a kohen gadol gets anointed, ton meshicha, v'kuloi kayom laslave, and all that oil remains forever. Hadod chsiv shem mishchas kodesh yehezeh. Zeh is gematria 12, the 12 lug. Li l'doris heichem. All 12 lug are going to last forever. Stamazay, you should know that it's not in our sugya, but it's important to know it is kind of in our sugya. If one were to take and anoint himself, let's say, he's chayiv kares. It's one of the 36 kareses that we learned the other day. There's 36 kareses. You don't anoint somebody that's not available for anointing. So if you decide you're a king and you want to be anointed, you get kares. Where do you do this meshicha? Where do you anoint? You take the oil, you smear it on. Where do you do it? By a water source, to show that his melucha is going to last, like water that just comes out of the ground and continues to come. Okay, it's a water source. You take out those words. So, if a son of a king doesn't need to be anointed, so why was Shlomo HaMelech anointed if his own father David was anointed already? So the answer is, anytime you have a machloikus, so maybe it's to show that he's the right one, but since Adoniyahu was his brother, he decided that he was going to be the king. You want to marry Avishag Shunamis, and the only way that you can marry Avishag is, since she already belonged to David, you can't marry a king's wife unless you're a king. So he decided to be a king, and he decided to kick his brother out. So Mamela, they had to anoint Shlomo and say, no, he's anointed. Look, we're anointing him. Yoyash mipnei asal Yohu. So Yohu was a wicked woman, and she was killing all the descendants, and they left one, Yoyash, all David's descendants. They left Yoyash, they hid him in Kodesh HaKadoshim for 6 years. So he was a small child, they pulled him out, and they made him king while she was still alive. Yoyachaz mipnei Yoyakim achiv. Okay, so now you have two brothers. Shegodam mimenu shtei shanim. Yoyachaz was younger than his brother. Nevertheless, he was anointed. So Mamela, they had to anoint him to show that he is in fact the king. Yehu mipnei Yoram. Liking ksiv kum mishocheu kizehu zetom mashicha v'malchi Yisrael tu mashicha. So it's a question. If these are kings that are Yisraelim, a Yisrael doesn't get mashicha. Only a Melech Beis David. Yoyachaz mipnei Yoyakim achiv shegodam mimenu shtei shanim. V'lo Yoshiyahu gnazai. Another question. Their father Yoshiyahu, he already buried the oil that we said that he buried. He buried all these things, the man, the oil. So when you're dealing with his son that's becoming a king, there was no oil left. So what do you mean that they anointed him? So we have two questions here. First of all, a Yisrael doesn't get anointed. Second of all, there's no oil to anoint with. Okay, it wasn't the real thing. It was a fake. It was a farsamoin, balsam oil. But it was just the zchus to say, look, if we had the real oil, this is what we would do. So once you have this fake oil, you can be Moshech, a Yisrael, you can be Moshech, somebody that when there's no oil at all. You take a horn, like a shofar, something that lasts a long time, a keren, and you anoint from that keren. However, Shaul and Yehu, they were anointed from a flask, stam, a cheap thing, something that could break. And therefore, their kingdom was considered one that doesn't last long. They were nimshach from a long-lasting vessel, such as a horn, and therefore it lasted. Omer Rabbi Yudon Antunidroya Hashem leyasur shevet miYehuda. The reason why we don't anoint a kohen to be a melech, because it says leyasur shevet miYehuda, only from Yehuda. Omer Rabbi Chia Barado L'man Yarech Yom HaMamlachto Hu Banu B'Kerev Yisrael Maksiv Asrei Lo Yek L'Kohanim Levim. It says in the next pasuk Lo Yek Kohanim Shev V'Nachla. They don't have Shev, nothing to do with the kingdom. Yet, since it's Samoch, it's the next pasuk over. So we say that a kohen cannot be a king. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Who Yochanan? Who Yoyachaz? So Yochanan is Yoyachaz. Vaksiv Habachar Yochanan. Now we said the Yoyachaz. A second ago we said the Yoyachaz was the second brother, who's 2 years younger than his brother, and it says that Habachar Yochanan, the oldest brother, is Yochanan. So how could Yoyachaz be Yochanan if Yoyachaz is not the older brother? Says the Gemara, Bechor L'Malchus, because when it comes to the sons, Yoshiyahu had Yoyachaz, Yechanya, Tzidkiyahu. He was the first one to be the king. They were all kings, but he was the first one. Omer Rabbi Yochanan, who Shalom hu Tzidkiyahu. So another one of Yoshiyahu's kids was Shalom. So Shalom Tzidkiyahu is the same. Vaksiv Hashlishi Tzidkiyahu v'Ravi Shalom. There's two sons. One was called Tzidkiyahu, he's the third, and the other one was called Shalom, and he was the fourth. So how can you say Shalom and Tzidkiyahu are the same? They're not the same. Says Gemara, they are the same. Shlishi l'tolodois, Revi l'malchus. One was the third brother, Yoyachaz, Yoyakim, Tzidkiyahu, and one was the fourth. In other words, that Tzidkiyahu only became king fourth. He wasn't the third one because Yechanya, a grandson, was king in between, kicked him out. So he was the king, only the fourth in line to his father. Tzidkiyahu Tzidak Olav Midas Hadin. Amazing story. Not going to go into it, but basically, Nebuchadnezzar killed Tzidkiyahu's sons right in front of his eyes, and then blinded Tzidkiyahu so that should be his last memory. And Tzidkiyahu accepted the Yisurim, And Nebuchadnezzar called him Tzidkiyahu. Tzadik olav hadin. Tzidkiyahu olav midas hadin. Shalom. Shebiyom shalom malchus beis David. That was it. L'shalom avishmei v'letzidkiyahu avishmei ela Matanya. His real name was Matanya, not Tzidkiyahu, not Shalom. Vayamlech melech Bavel es Matanya. Doide takdo v'yasev es Shmoi Tzidkiyahu. Melech Bavel called him Tzidkiyahu. Interesting that we, for the rest of the Navi, I guess that's his name, Tzidkiyahu. Omer b'yechel. Ba'amo shel shisha tfachim haya ha'aron asui. The Aron, which inside the Aron we had, for sure, we had the luchas. We might even had this Torah, the Sefer Torah. Top of the Aron, you have the kruvim. Parsik nofayim, sometimes they went that way. So how large was the Aron? So that's the Shiloh over here. Machloikis. Ba'am shel shisha tvachim haya Aron asud. So one man says that we use, the Torah tells us how many amos. It's 2.5 amos. But do we use an amma of 6 tvachim or 5 tvachim? Huge nafkamina. If it's 6 tvachim, then we can fit a Sefer Torah in there. If it's only 5 tvachim, there's no room. Mantana ba'ama shel shisha tvachim, Remeir, the Snar, Remeir, Omer, kol amos, hayu b'beinaniyis. All the amos were the medium one, which means 6, not 5 and not 6 point something. 6 tvachim per amma. Since the Aron is a kli, we're dealing with the 5 tfachim variety of an amma. So now, according to Remeir, do Omer ba'am shel shisha tfachim haya Aron asui. He says that the Aron was built with the 6 tfachim amma. Argu shel Aron chamisha asar tfachim. So it comes out that the Aron was 15 tfachim long. D'chsiv amosayim v'chetzi arkai. 2.5 times 6 equals 15. But the Gemara gives it to us like a Panovitcher math student. Amosayim v'chetzi arkai. Amso ashito. 1 times 6 equals 6. Now we do that again. V'amso ashito. 1 times 6 equals 6. So 2 of them together, 12. 12. Upalgus amsa, and a half of 6 equals klasa, 3. So 3 plus 12 equals 15. Now, so we have 15 tefachim. But we have to take off 1 tefach for the walls. Each wall was a half a tefach on each side. So we're left with 14. You have 4 luchos, the 2 broken ones and the 2 whole ones. Each luach, each one of the luchos is 3. So 3 times 4 is 12. So what are we left with? We started with 14 from the inside of the box is 14, and now the luchos take up 12. So we're left with 2 tefachim. Those 2 tefachim fit the Sefer Torah. In other words, the Sefer Torah was 2 tefachim wide. Says the Gemara, we could either go with this picture from the Mesifta. It's interesting, but it's kind of dark. These are the broken ones. You see all these lines, broken ones. Here are the 2 whole ones. If you look closely, there's a Sefer Torah here. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 12. Plus 2 for the Sefer Torah is 14. So you have 14 plus another half a tefach here for the actual wood or the gold is 15 tefachim, and that's what we're talking about. Or, if you would like, you go with the art scroll, sponsored by the art scroll. This is a little clear, not as pretty, but very clear. Luach, 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 that takes up 12 plus the Torah is 14. And they do it over here, 3, 3, 3, 3 plus, actually there's 2. So 3, 3, 3, 2 plus 2, great. Now, this is 9 tefachim. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. The ones that you broke, put the broken ones into the art. Haluchos hayu kol echad ve'echad arkei shisha tefachim. Each one was 6 tefachim. Rachboi shloisha. You have to be garis here shloisha. So each one was 6 by 3. V'ten arkan shaluchos la'arkei shal aray. So maybe you have to be garis l'rachboi. But anyways, you put the luchas this way. So you have, because you started out with 15, and you only took up 12, so now you're left with 3. Now we turn to Daf Zayin Amud Beis. Sponsored for zchus of a shidduch for Dina Tamar, Bas Esther Rivka, by Yaakov Badner and Stephen Sokolo. And sponsored for a shidduch for my daughter, Leena, Bas, Golda, Leah. So you need to give at least a half a tevach, not at least, exactly half a tevach for each wall of the aray. So now you just took off 1 full tevach. So rather than having 15 tefachim, now you have 14. Now you left with 2 tefachim, perfect. Sefer Torah fits in right over here. Sorry. From here to here is 9 tefachim, as you see right over here. How do we know that? D'chsiv, amma v'chetzi rochboi, 1.5 amma. How much is 1.5 times 6? Well, I'll tell you. Amso ashiso palgus amso tloso. Amso ashita, 1 amma is 6. Upalgus and a half amma. Upalgus amso and a half amma tloso is 3. So 3 plus 6 equals 9. Now we could skip 3 lines. The guy takes it out because it comes right up. Now, if the luach itself from here to here is 6, and from the whole box is 9, so you have 3 tefachim that we need to deal with. Says the Gemara, you must take off a half a tefach and a half a tefach. So you see, this Gemara was perfect for Panavichers like me. The Gemara that tells us that the Revius is 2 fingers by 2 fingers, that was a different story. So Bekitzer, we take off 1, so we have 3 tefachim extra. 1 goes for the dark area over here for the wall. Now we're left with 2 tefachim. What do? 1 for this empty space here, and 1 for the empty space here, and that's so you could grab the luchos. Who grabbed the luchos? Like we discussed yesterday. Shaul grabbed the luchos. According to Rashi, every Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol has to take out the Sefer Torah and read from it. And on Hakel, they take it out, according to Rashi. Other Rishonim argue, they say, no, the Sefer Torah never moves. Maybe I'll stop for a second. Hold on. I want to say Shalom Aleichem to Avram Schwartz from England and from Yitzi Spiro. Shalom Aleichem Yitzi. I'm in Chicago. Maybe if I see your parents, I'll say hello to them. Vernoch Ari Bloom, Shkoyach. Beautiful job, Rabbi. I got to say, I don't think I spoke enough about this Haggadah. 67 pages of Haggadah with pictures and the retire from so many different people. So Shkoyach Gadol. Was noch? Hey Nach, I don't know where you are. If you're in England, Shalom Aleichem. If you're in Israel, Shalom Aleichem. Okay, we'll go weiter. Al daite Rabbi Yehuda, du Omer ba'amo shel chamisha tefachim hoya arga. By the way, I want to say, I don't know if I could say this, but I'll say it anyways. I don't think it's a big deal. Noam Fix's son learns in France, and he hasn't seen him over a year because of COVID. They didn't let anybody come into France or out of France. So he flew to France. That's where he is. If you want to know where, he's in France now. I hope he doesn't kill me for saying this. I don't see why he would be upset about that. But anyways, it's a big simcha. Over a year, not to see a 14, 15-year-old son is an amazing thing. All right, anyway, Zog the Gemara. Al dai der Rebbe du Omer ba'ama shel chamisha tefachim hoya arkoi osui shneim osur tefach omechza. Now, did I skip anything just in case? Yeah, no, sorry, yeah, I did. I don't know what the word is. Okay, so 2 tefachim in order to take out the Sefer Torah. We're dealing with 5 tefachim. Mantana b'amas chamisha tefachim Rabbi Yehuda. That's Shitas Rabbi Yehuda, and he goes with this one right over here. Everybody's going to say there's only 4 luchas inside the aron. There's no Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah is hanging out somewhere on the outside of the aron in a box from the outside. Dina Tamar Rabbi Yehuda Omer amas habinyan shisha. Well, shel kelim chamisha. Kelim are 5. V'hein aron kliu. No, we're dealing with the aron. That's a kli. Adat Rabbi Yehuda do Omer b'amas shel chamisha tefachim haya. So, if you do 2.5 amma times 5, comes out to 12.5 amma. So the Gemara does the math for us. Amso chamsha. So 1 amma equals 5. Ve'amso chamsha and another amma equals 5, total 10. Upalgus amso and a half of 5 is treu palig, is 2.5. So 2.5 plus 10 equals 12.5. Now, and there was 4 luchos. Unbelievable. The Gemara goes through the whole thing again. You have to be goyer shloisha. Same thing. We're not changing anything. The luchos are the same in both, according to Rabbi Yehuda. 6 by 3. 10. Rachbon shelucha is larger shalaron. V'nishtayim chatzi tevach. Oh, now 4 times 3 equals 12. So what do we have? We start out with 12.5. So we're only left with a half a tefach. So we have a problem. Obviously, the size of the aron cannot be like Rameir, because Rameir said that each side is a tefach, is a half a tefach, and now all we have is a half a tefach for both sides. So it must be that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the aron, the thickness of the aron, was half that of Rameir. Again, slow. The math. 12.5 tefachim from corner to corner. The luchos take up 12. So we're left with a half a tefach for the walls. So in other words, it's a quarter of a tefach, or we call it 2 fingers. Now, what about the width? It's a little different because now we're dealing with 5 tefachim amas, not 6. So, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's 7.5 tefachim from corner to corner. How much is the amma v'chetzi times 5? Amso chamsha. 1 amma equals 5. Upalgus amso trei upali. And now we skip 3 lines, to where it says tein rochbo. Tein rochbo l'rochbo shalorim mishtayim sham tefach umechza. Ez b'lekoyz mekan, ez b'lekoyz mekan. Chatzi tefach mekan, v'chatzi tefach mekan l'shilot. So, if we're going to remove, so we have 1.5 tefach left. So if we have, right, because the luach itself is 6, and we're dealing with 7.5 tefachim, so we have 1.5 tefach to play with. Well, the wall is a half a tefach, so now we're left with 1 tefach that we don't know what to do with. So that's the blank space over here in order to maneuver the luchas, to take them in and out when necessary. So holding smack in middle of the Amud. Ketzad also betzalel sa'aron. Rebbe Chanina Omar sholosh teves asoi, shtayim shel zov va'achas shel eitz. So this is a very fundamental machlokes. This picture that I showed you is according to this shita right over here, Rebbe Chanina. Now there was in fact 3 boxes. This box, the outer box, is made out of pure gold, and the inner box is made out of pure gold. But the middle box, I forgot what it's called, the Russian egg, you know what I'm talking about. The middle box was made out of wood. And when the Torah says that you should cover the box with gold, Reb Chanina understood that it's not literally like the Aron Kodesh and Panovich that is gold plated, but rather you make a box of gold and you put the wooden box inside it. So now the outer part of the box is covered in gold. And then you take another golden box and you put it inside the wooden box. So now the inside of the wooden box is covered with gold. The only problem is, what about the top part of the box? Right over here. This area that goes around the lip. What about that? How do you get that to be gold? Says the Gemara, Shalosh Tevis Asoy, Shtaim Shel Zov, Achas Shel Eitz. Nasan Shel Zov b'Shel Eitz, v'Shel Eitz b'Shel Zov, v'Tzipo. So that, by that, you're Mekayim, the Torah of v'Tzipo, you should plate it. D'chsiv, v'Tzipisa Oisoi Zov, Tar Mebayis U'Mechutz. Matam Alevim Tetzapenu. So why does it say Tetzapenu again? Lahavi Sfasoi Hel Yoyna. That you must cover the edge of the box. And how do we do that? Rabbi Shimon Lakish Omar, no. So how do you do that? If you look closely right over here, there's a lip that extends over the top box. You could see it maybe in this corner right over here.
Really?
Yeah.
For the Zoom people, you need to pick up the picture a little bit more. You don't see the whole page.
Oh, like that. Now I see
it.
myself.
That's better.
Thank you. Okay. If you look right over here in this corner, you can see how the box, the lip extends slightly, right over here. And that, when you push down this box, it covers the edge of the wood. So all 6 sides of the box, of the wooden box, are covered in gold. Not literally, they're not on it, but they're covering it when you put the outer box and inner box over it and in it. I mean, if you were to read if you weren't learning the Gemara, just reading the pasuk, you'd probably say like Reb Shimon Lakish. It says, "V'tzipisa oisoi zahav tar mebayis u'mechutz." L'chayr, that's the simple way of reading it. You take a box of wood and you cover it with gold on all sides. How did he to come up with this? He was medayik very much, and it should have said "V'tzipisa mibachut," a different diuk. But at the end of the day, if you're not like looking hard, you would say V'tzipisa means literally take a wooden box. This middle guy, forget the inner one, forget the outer one. We're not. He does away with those 2 boxes. It's one box made out of wood, plated with gold. So why does it say again? If there's any gaps between the wood, you have to fill that in nicely with gold. Now, we all go to shul, and in a lot of shuls, they paskin that the luchos is 5 over here and 5 over there. That's how we grew up. We don't know anything else besides that. So the Gemara here tells us might have been different. There's a bunch of shittas here. That's the guy in charge of all the shuls in the world. He holds like Rabbi Chanina. Chananya. Chananya ben Gamliel loimer chamish alu achzeh v'chamish alu achzeh. Adol d'chsiv vayichtevim. The Goyin has another pasuk here. Aseres hadvarim. Okay. Vayichtevim ashniluch zavar. Chamish alu achzeh v'chamish alu achzeh. Vayichtevim. You take the Aseres hadibros and you write them on 2 separate luchas. It says. Okay. They're not saying that there's 20 dibros. It's the same Aseres hadibros. But Chacham say 10 go over here, and the same 10 go on the second luchos. I have to rush. You know why? Because in 4 minutes the lights go out. Menachem is loving it. Mamish loving it. Rav Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Esrim aluach zeh, ve'esrim aluach zeh. There's 20. Again, it's the Aseres HaDibros, but double on each luach. In other words, you have 10 over here and 10 on the opposite side. Rabbi Samai Omer, Arboim aluach zeh, v'arboim aluach zeh, d'chsiv mizem mizem ksuvim tetragoyna. It's a square. In other words, you take the square on each side, on all 4 sides of the square, you put 10 down, times 2, both luchas. Chananyo ben Achai, ben Achi, Rabbi Yeshua Omer, ben kol dibur v'dibur dikutev v'oisisel sh'Torah. Unbelievable. In between each, Anoichi Hashem, right underneath it, The entire Torah, all the Psukim. The Beis Halevi says, not only that, all of Gemara. The kids are a nace. It's like Tarshish, the Great Sea, the Mediterranean. You have Kiyama Rabba, unbelievable amount of information in between the luchas. Rabbi Shimon Lakish can have a Motel Haldein Kroyo, have a Omer. When he came to this pasuk, he said, Yavalim Deni Chananya ben Achi, Rabbi Yeshua, Mayom Hazeh, Ben Gal Godol, Gal Godol, Galim Tanim, between the giant waves, there's smaller waves. Kach Ben Kol Diba B'Diba D'Kekeva, Yisrael Shel Torah. Omer B'Tan Chuma. So between each word and word is smaller. We can say the whole Torah. Omer B'Tan Chuma. Is Kashayis Kumi Rabbi Pinchas. I ask a question to Rabbi Pinchas. Asyo Rabbi Yehuda v'le Asyo Rabbi Meir. This makes sense. Like Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. My time of the Rabbi Yehuda chsiv lokoyach a sefer HaTorah hazeh v'samtem oisem mitzad aroim bris Hashem. Al dai Rabbi Yehuda du Omar heichon hoya sefer Torah nasun kimin gluskus asu loy mi b'chutz v'sefer Torah nasun b'toichai. Oh no! Hold on a second. You know what? We could go like this, but let me turn on the light. Hold on. Son, I saw this would never happen. The lights go out. Okay. So, sorry, Menachem. We're going weiter. He already went off. According to Rabbi Yehuda,
I'm still
here. I know. According to Rabbi Yehuda, where is he? According to Rabbi Yehuda, the luchas took up the entire aron, so the Sefer Torah had to be outside of the aron. So he's saying like this. We have two psukim. These are the two psukim. V'nosata lo aron eso edus. Inside the aron, put the edus. What does edus mean? Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the only thing it can mean is luchos. There's nothing else that you put in the aron. Okay. And then, this is pasuk Tezayin. In pasuk Chav Aleph, it says, V'nosata sakapoyres ala aron, cover the aron, milamalo, and then it says, V'el aron titen eso edus. What's going on here? Now, according to Rabbi Meir, that the Sefer Torah goes inside. So, what this pasuk is saying is, put the luchas in, and in 40 years from now, we'll talk again. When Moshe Rabbeinu, when you go into Eretz Yisrael, take the Sefer Torah, put it in. But that's way later. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, what's going on here? If you're covering the aron, how are you going to get the luchas inside? Says the Gemara, the teres that everybody loves. My time the remainder sivinosatas akapores al ha'ore milamalo vela aron titan seidus. So the edus according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir means the Torah. Asher eten elecha. Al daite the Rabbi Yehuda, you have to be glorious here. Du Omar ein mugdam umucha b'Torah. So you have to say according. What did I just drop? Okay. So according to Rabbi Meir, where was I? According to Rabbi Meir, we're talking about the Torah goes inside. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, we have to say, Ein mukdam umucha b'Torah. This red comes after the blue. In other words, first, you put the luchas in, blue, and then we're going to read the red. Ein mukdam, there's nothing comes earlier or later in the Torah, even in one pasuk. First, blue. And then v'nosatos hakaporos al aron milamalo. Rebbeinu b'shem Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. HaTorah shenosan lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu was just going to do this line and that's it for today. HaTorah shenosan lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'Moshe. Amazing things going on here. This Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe, Nesana lo eish levana, it was a white fire, charuta be'eish shchayra. It was carved out in black fire. In other words, like our Sefer Torah today, it's black letters on a white background. But this is in fire. And the Tikkun Chatan says on all these things, Eish Levana is a remez to Razei Torah. It's white. It's the secrets hidden in the Torah. That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe Rabbeinu the secrets. He Eish, Muvlelas Be'eish. It's fire that's mixed into fire. If you want to see in this week's Ara Merkaz, Rabbi Schoenberg has beautiful pshatim over here. Chatzuva me'eish unesuna me'eish. It's carved out of fire and it's given in fire. D'chsiv mi'minoi eish das lamai. With HaKadosh Baruch Hu's right hand, he gave fire to us. Now, before we stop, it's kedai to see this beautiful Tikkun Chadatin. The last one here, das lamai. We always say it, right? Very famous pasuk at the end of the Torah. Eish miminoi eish das lamai. What does das lamai mean? Says the Tikkun Chadatin, hein oisi ois Talmud. Tikkun Chadatin here. Where was he? Tikkun Chadatin. They went to his caver. So it says the Heilige Tikkun Chadatin that it's the letters das lamai dalid sof lamed mem vav spell Talmud. This is our Torah. What we're learning, the Gemara, the Daf Yomi is das lamai. Ki the kasa Rabbeinu Hagoyin nishmosei Eden. I guess the Vilna Goyin because he's the Talmud Goyin. V'lamai haynu shenitna lanu is given to us. V'gam kein shemchuberes l'nishmeseinu. The Torah, if you think about it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the written Torah, but that's written. That's in a book. But the Torah Shebal Peh that we're learning is connected to our neshama. It's not connected anywhere. It's not given to the Goyim. It was never given to them. Now it's written. Okay, so you could go buy another scroll. But the Torah that we're learning, this Daf Yomi, is something HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave our neshama. He attached it to our neshama. He didn't give it in a book. That's what he's saying here. He gave it to us. This Torah, this Gemara, the Talmud. Okay. Rabbi, have a wonderful day. We'll see you Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Menachem, please do some Tehillim if you can. Amen. Shkoyach Gadol, thank you. You guys can unmute if you want. Shkoyach. Kesil, Rabbi Kesil Weisberger, Shalom Aleichem.
Thank you. I missed you by the
No, favos. You had a good excuse. Okay.
I signed up, but unfortunately I missed it.
All right. Well, there'll be another time, Be'ez Hashem. Be'ez Hashem. It was very successful. Be'ez Hashem. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Who's that, Avi?
Yes.
Good night. Good night. Eli Trapper's in the house.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome.
Awesome.
Just get something in the beginning of year.
What? What'd you say?
Just get something in the beginning of year.
I can't believe it. Oh, you mean your email?
Right, guys. I need to run. Everybody have an amazing day.
Monte, you can't run. What are you going?
Today wasn't such a good year, Rabbi.
I know. I agree.
Yeshua, what with the little pet?
This would be so. Everything was okay.
That was great. Did everybody hear? Yeshua, did you hear what Eli Trapper said? That's nivel peh. Unbelievable. Loved it.
Yeshua gets the award for coming on and off the shears sometimes.
Also,
Yeshua, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have Eli Trapper faher you on the shear. Eli, ask him a kasha or two about the shear. Ask him.
I just want to know.
Any kasha. Go ahead, Eli. You're scared. Yeshua, you're scared.
Eli, just ask him.
Eli, ask him a kasha. Ask him anything.
Cut through the letters will cut through all the way. You could still see the rock on that paper.
Eli, ask him what this week's parsha. See if you get him.
Yeah, what is it, Starsha? That's a good one.
Should I put Yeshua in the waiting room?
Wait a second.
No. He's a good guy. Yeshua's a good guy.
This stuff's everybody.
Yeah, let's hear.
Okay,
Eli, you're very excited. I don't like this. You're too excited to stump somebody. Look at you. Wow. Okay, this better be good. Let's hear. No?
in this week's parsha.
Ooh.
Sure?
Sure, you go to Zilverman, or do you have a Chumash handy?
Now he's muted. Almost he's muted. You sure you want a studio?
No, Eli, you have to ask him a question on today's daf. You can't. That's way too hard. This week's parsha is too hard.
You know, it's a very important part of Judaism. You know that, Rabbi Stefansky?
What? Let's hear what.
Well, today you're Rabbi Stefansky.
Wow.
Okay.
When the shir is no good, I became a rabbi. But when it's good, I'm a mister. He has to like give me a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeshua, are you there?
Yes, he's there. Of course.
No, I have to go. I have a lot of pressure. I
Got more answer.
Eli, we might be onto something. No, ask him. Go ask him a kasha on today's daf.
The first thing I want to do is he has always a test before I set them up. Read me the first 2 lines of the beginning of the daf.
You gotta explain this. Up the page. Come
By
on.
the way, this is all on YouTube. This is all on YouTube, by the way. That's fine. Hold on. But Eli,
Doesn't even know what stuff it is. That's the great thing.
the first 2 lines from where it started.
He knows. He sends out a message to everybody that we're doing a certain daf. He knows.